Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Realistic 151 project, the series where I make realistic versions of the first generation of Pokemon. I hope that my American side of my audience had a great Thanksgiving last week. When I sat down at the table this year and loaded up my plate full of turkey and other stuff, I thought about what the Pokemon world's equivalent of a turkey and a turkey dinner would be, because I'm a really weird guy. And honestly, I came up with two options that I decided would make a great subject for the next episode of Realistic 151. Those being two lines, actually. Farfetch'd and Doduo and Dodrio. Starting with Farfetch'd, I think that this probably is the most quote-unquote Thanksgiving feast applicable Pokemon. Though, yes, that may be a bit dark, the entire concept is based on how ducks are common food fowl in Japan. Farfetch'd apparently is based on a Japanese proverb related to a duck bearing its own green onions, which is supposed to mean something like, things in life will rarely come all prepared, you have to work to make them the way that you want, or something. Which is apparently why it's such a rare Pokemon in the original games. When drawing Farfetch'd, I mainly took inspiration from wild duck species and changed some of the proportions so that it would stand in the same way that Farfetch'd does in the game. I drew the wings in such a way where there was an implied opposable thumb or similar structure for it to hold on to the leek that it was carrying. I made sure to get the texture of the leek right, as real leeks don't look as simple as the one in the game does, as they are layered and have a smoother gradient, but I think I did a good enough job. I usually put a little note about how these Pokemon would be to own at the end of the video or during the final evolution, but since I'm doing two lines today, and I'm not doing the Galarian versions, this, I guess, counts as its final form. I believe that Farfetch'd would be one of those Pokemon that would basically be like having a normal pet. It doesn't appear to need water to swim in like a real duck, and it could honestly probably wander about the house and be completely fine. The only specific care you might need to give this Pokemon is adding leeks to your grocery bill, as you would probably need to replace the leek weekly because they don't last forever, so that your Farfetch'd had a leek to carry around. I don't think they would be very common pets, however, due to their rarity. Maybe they would be highly prized livestock species in places where duck soup is popular. Again, that's a bit dark, but my mind is still on my Thanksgiving leftovers. So here is my interpretation of Farfetch'd, the duck Pokemon. The next Pokemon on my list today is Doduo, which, funnily enough, is right next to Farfetch'd in the Pokedex. I thought that this might be an applicable turkey equivalent Pokemon, as even though, yes, they're basically ostriches, we don't eat those in the real world, I imagine in a world where dragons and ghosts exist, people wouldn't think twice about feasting on what is basically a giant turkey, especially if you had a lot of guests coming over. But again, we shouldn't be thinking about eating Pokemon, I don't think, especially one as cute as this. I love the two-headed design of Doduo, though like many Generation 1 Pokemon, this is basically just a real-life animal with elemental powers. The addition of the second head gives it just enough of a touch of weird to make it a very cool design. I was inspired by ostrich chicks and changed some of the proportions to be in line with the anatomy that is found on the real bird. Though it appears that Doduo doesn't have any wings, their evolutionary line can learn the move fly, so they must be hidden under that fur somewhere. So I made sure to hint at the fact that there could be wings there, but ultimately leave it up to audience interpretation whether or not they wanted to picture this fluff as wings or just fluff on the side of their body. I learned after I drew them that this is one of those Pokemon that has sexual dimorphism, looking different whether or not it's male or female, as the male's necks are black and the females are tan, which I guess would make this one male and the evolutionary form female, as I was basing these designs on their non-game art, where Doduo has a black neck and Dodrio has a tan neck. So keep in mind that I guess the color would change. but this is my interpretation of Doduo, the twin bird Pokemon. Finally, Dodrio is a full-on ostrich, with 3 heads, of course. For Dodrio, I took inspiration from fully grown ostriches, and to be honest, I had to make no changes to the real-world biology, besides for the addition of the accurate colors. When it comes to owning a Pokemon of this line, that's where it might get trickier than it did with Farfetch'd. When you look at people who own ostriches in real life, and similar giant birds, there's a lot of accommodations that you would have to make for animals like this. A pen to run around in, its own housing, and never mind that many birds like this are far from being domesticated and have a lot of behavioral challenges. That might make for a more difficult Pokemon to take care of. But I guess not nearly as hard as some of the others in the Pokedex. Yes, Pokeballs do exist in this hypothetical scenario, but I'd imagine that they'd probably be primarily used for transportation realistically, and that your Pokemon would be a lot happier and healthier out and about. Anyway, this is my interpretation of Dodrio, the triple bird Pokemon. So here are my interpretations of Farfetch'd and the Dodrio line. What do you think? Did you imagine them differently, or is this more what you expected? What Pokemon would you like to see next? Let me know by participating in tomorrow's upcoming poll, where I have selected a handful of commenter-suggested Pokemon to tackle next. Whoever wins will be the subject of the next video. If your favorite isn't on the poll and you want to see it soon, then make sure to leave a comment so that it might make it into the next poll. A special thanks to my patrons who are appearing on screen now, and support the channel by making projects like this possible. If you would like to join them in their support, you can do so at the link in the description for as little as $3 a month. Thank you to all my patrons, and as always, thank you all for watching. If you liked this video, then leave a like, and if you want to see other videos like it, then subscribe, and turn on the bell to get notified when I upload next.